While my cousins were celebrating their millions at my grandfather's funeral, I stood there holding a crumpled envelope with nothing but a single plane ticket inside. They laughed in my face, certain I'd been cut out for good. But 6 months later, those same cousins were on their knees, begging for my forgiveness, because the secret behind that ticket would turn their betrayal into the most unforgettable revenge this family has ever seen. If your family has ever betrayed you, then you'll love this story. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Let me take you back to the day it all began. The air at the Rochester Country Club was thick with the scent of old money and fresh betrayal. My name is Nathan Whitmore, and I was the only one in the room not wearing a designer suit or a smug smile. My cousins, Preston and Mallory, were already celebrating their inheritance before the will was even read. Preston, the golden boy, strutted around in his $5,000 Armani suit, rehearsing his CEO speech for the company employees he'd soon command. Mallory, his sister, hid her glee behind oversized sunglasses, probably planning which Instagram filter would best capture her new yacht. Their parents, Vernon and Beatrice, stood off to the side, looking like vultures circling a fresh kill. Vernon's hand hovered over the lawyer's briefcase, ready to snatch up whatever assets he could. Beatrice's diamond bracelets sparkled as she clung to her husband, her eyes darting between the lawyer and the champagne tray. And then, there was me, the high school history teacher who drove 3 hours in a Honda Civic with squeaky brakes just to say goodbye to the only person in this family who ever really saw me. My grandfather, Roland Whitmore, built an empire from nothing. He turned a single fishing boat into Whitmore Shipping Industries, and everyone wanted their piece of his kingdom. Everyone except me. I just wanted 5 more minutes to play chess with the old man, who taught me that the most powerful moves are the ones nobody sees coming. Growing up, I was always the outsider. My father, Dennis, was the only one who understood me. He'd spent his life being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who never complained when Vernon took credit for his ideas. When Dad died suddenly, my mother Grace picked up the pieces, working 12-hour shifts as a nurse to keep us afloat. We never had much, but we had each other. Grandfather Roland was a mystery wrapped in a 3-piece suit. He didn't believe in giving. He believed in earning. Every birthday card came with a $20 bill and a note. Make it worth more. Every Christmas, he gave me books about business or certificates for online courses. But the only time he seemed genuinely interested in me was during our Sunday chess games. Those games became the one constant between us, a silent language of strategy and trust. Preston and Mallory never understood those games. Preston was too busy shadowing grandfather at the office, learning about profit margins and tax shelters. Mallory turned herself into a brand, chronicling her life as the shipping heiress on social media. Their parents were the ultimate power couple in the most hollow way possible. Vernon, the CFO who let his assistant do all the work, and Beatrice, who attended charity galas for the photo ops. I was the odd one out, teaching teenagers about the Constitution and grading papers at a kitchen table I bought at a garage sale. But I was happy until the day of the funeral, when everything I thought I knew about my family and myself was about to be shattered. But I had no idea just how deep the betrayal would go. The will reading was held in the same oak-paneled room where grandfather had negotiated his biggest deals. The mahogany table reflected our faces like a dark mirror. The lawyer, Mr. Herrick, adjusted his glasses and began. To my eldest son, Vernon Whitmore, and his wife, Beatrice, I leave the estate in the Hamptons, and the investment portfolio contained an account ending in 471. Beatrice gasped, clutching Vernon's arm. The Hamptons house. Oh, Vernon, he did remember how much we loved it there. To my grandson, Preston Whitmore, I leave Whitmore Shipping Industries and all its operational assets, with the condition that he maintains current employment levels for at least 1 year. Preston shot to his feet, his chair scraping the floor. I knew it, grandfather. I won't let you down. He was already pulling out his phone, probably updating his LinkedIn profile to CEO. To my granddaughter, Mallory Whitmore, I leave the Manhattan penthouse on Central Park West and the yacht Serenity, currently moored in Newport. Mallory squealed, her phone already recording. The penthouse? Oh my God, do you know what that's worth? And the yacht? My followers are going to die. Then Mr. Horrick turned to me. I saw something in his eyes that looked almost like pity. And to my grandson, Nathan Whitmore, I leave this. He pulled out a small white envelope, worn at the corners, my name written across it in grandfather's shaky handwriting. The room went silent for exactly 2 seconds before Preston burst out laughing. "Are you serious? That's it? An envelope?" He snatched it from my hand before I could react. "A plane ticket? Rome, one-way coach. This is rich. The teacher gets a vacation." Mallory was already filming. This is actually hilarious. "Nathan, your face right now. Don't worry. Maybe he left you some frequent flyer miles too." Vernon straightened his tie, his voice dripping with condescension. "Roland always said you lacked the killer instinct for business, Nathan. At least he gave you something nice. Rome is lovely this time of year," Beatrice added. "It's probably his way of saying goodbye. A little trip to help you process everything." How thoughtful. My mother, silent in the corner, finally spoke. "Is that everything, Mr. Harwick?" He nodded. "There is a personal letter for Nathan, to be opened only upon his arrival in Rome." Preston howled. "What's he going to say? Sorry, you're poor. Enjoy the pizza?" I looked at the ticket again. October 15th, 3 p.m. Arrival, Alitalia Flight 61. Why so specific? Why Rome? Grandfather had never mentioned Italy in all our years of chess games. I stood up, sliding the ticket back into the envelope. "I guess I'd better pack." "You're actually going?" Mallory looked genuinely surprised. "You're going to use your sick days to take a random trip to Rome?" Vernon shook his head. "Sentimental fool, just like your father. Dennis never understood that emotion has no place in business either." Their laughter followed me out to the parking lot, echoing in my ears. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and utterly alone. But little did they know, I wasn't going to stay broken for long. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the plane ticket and my bank account, $1,147.23. Rent was due in 5 days. My car needed new brake pads. I had 43 essays on the Civil War to grade. Every logical part of my brain screamed that flying to Rome was insane. But I couldn't stop thinking about grandfather's last words during our final chess game. "The best moves, Nathan, are the ones your opponent never sees coming." I called my mother. "I'm going," I said as soon as she answered. "I knew you would," she replied. "Your grandfather called me last month. He didn't say much, just that I should support whatever decision you made after the funeral." "Mom, this is crazy. I can't afford to miss work. I have responsibilities." "Nathan, your father once told me that Roland wasn't always the man we knew. He said there was a before and after in his father's life, and we only knew the after. Maybe this is about the before." The next morning, I arranged for a substitute teacher. My principal wasn't happy, but I'd never taken a sick day in 6 years. She grudgingly approved 3 days off. Packing was surreal. 1 carry-on bag, 2 changes of clothes, and my father's old leather journal. The Uber to Detroit Metropolitan Airport cost me $32. I couldn't spare, but I was already committed to this insanity. At the gate, I pulled out the envelope again. That's when I noticed something I'd missed before. A tiny number written in pencil. 1947. The year grandfather would have been 22. The year after he left the Navy. The flight was long and uncomfortable. I was crammed in coach, sandwiched between a snoring businessman and a woman watching a movie without headphones. As the plane lifted off, I thought about Preston, probably already sitting in grandfather's office, feeling like a king. Mallory was definitely posting sunset photos from the yacht. Vernon and Beatrice were probably meeting with financial advisors about their newfound wealth. But something felt right about it. For the first time since grandfather died, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. When we landed in Rome, I was exhausted and disoriented. The arrivals hall was chaotic. I was about to head for the exit when I saw a sign, Nathan Whitmore. It was held by a man in a black suit. "I'm Nathan Whitmore," I said. The driver smiled. "Your grandfather arranged everything months ago. My name is Lorenzo. Please, we have a long drive." He led me to a black Mercedes and drove north, out of the city, into the Sabine Hills. The landscape was breathtaking. Olive groves, vineyards, and ancient villages. After an hour, we arrived at a villa that looked like something out of a movie. Before I could process what I was seeing, the doors opened and an elderly woman emerged. She walked toward me, tears streaming down her face. "Nathan," Lorenzo said softly, "meet your grandmother, Sophia Whitmore." The world tilted. I actually reached for the car to steady myself. That's when I discovered the perfect way to ruin them. I stood frozen, staring at the woman who claimed to be my grandmother. My American grandmother had died before I was born, but Sophia's eyes were steel gray, just like grandfather studied my face with a mix of longing and recognition. "Your American grandmother did die, Carol," she said, her accent musical. "But I am very much alive." Inside the villa, the walls were covered with photographs of grandfather, young and laughing, standing in front of a small church. A wedding photo of him and Sophia, both barely in their 20s. "We married in 1947, Sophia explained. "Roland came to Italy with the Navy, stayed after the war to help with reconstruction. We started with nothing, just a few acres of vines." She poured 2 glasses of wine. "This is from our vineyard. We call it Eredita Inheritance." I tried to process it all. Grandfather had a whole life here. A family, a vineyard. "He left you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "The Korean War started. Roland felt a duty calling. He was supposed to be gone 6 months. But he met your American grandmother while on leave. She was pregnant with Vernon. He couldn't bear to give up either life, so he kept both separate, secret." She handed me a thick folder of deeds, contracts, and bank statements. "Whitmore Vineyards International, 47 million in assets. It's all yours, Nathan." He was very specific. "Not Vernon, not Preston, you." I was stunned. But what hit me hardest was the video she played on an old laptop, recorded just a month before grandfather died. His face filled the screen, looking more peaceful than I'd ever seen him. "Nathan, if you're watching this, then you trusted me enough to take the flight. Good. You always were the only one who understood that some things matter more than money. Your cousins got what they always wanted, the appearance of success. But appearances can be deceiving. Whitmore Shipping has been hemorrhaging money for 3 years. I've hidden it in the books, but Preston's about to inherit a disaster. The penthouse has 3 mortgages. The yacht is leased. The Hamptons estate, the bank owns 70% of it. I gave them exactly what they showed me. They valued hollow prizes that look golden from the outside." He leaned closer to the camera. "But you, Nathan, you visited me every Sunday just to play chess. Never asked for anything, never angled for position. You chose teaching over money because you wanted purpose. So I'm giving you what you never asked for: truth, family, and yes, wealth that's actually real." The vineyard produces 2 million bottles a year. The villa has been in Sophia's family for 300 years. Your uncle Augusto has been running operations, waiting to meet you. Your cousins Marco and Elena are good people, raised right. Othering like Preston and Mallory. This is your real inheritance. A family that values work, land that produces something real, and a legacy built on truth, not lies. He paused, that familiar sharp look returning to his eyes. "Oh, and Nathan, your next move is yours to make. But here's my advice. Preston's going to call within a month, begging for help. Be kinder to him than he was to you. That's what makes you better. Checkmate, my boy." The screen went dark. My hands were shaking. I realized I held the power to expose everything. But when the day finally came, everything changed. I spent 3 weeks in Italy, learning everything about the vineyard, the land, and the family I never knew existed. Uncle Augusto ran the operations with quiet efficiency. Marco and Elena, my Italian cousins, welcomed me like a brother. They taught me about wine, about the land, about the grandfather they knew, a man who laughed, worked in the fields, and valued honesty above all. But I couldn't stop thinking about what was happening back in the States. Preston, Mallory, Vernon, and Beatrice were living their best lives on paper, but the truth was about to catch up with them. Exactly 23 days after I returned to Detroit, my phone rang at midnight. It was Preston. His voice was hollow, stripped of all arrogance. "Nathan, we need to talk. The company's bankrupt. The accountants found everything. Dad's lost the house. Mallory's penthouse got foreclosed on yesterday. It's all gone." I let him sit in the silence for a moment. "I'm sorry, Preston." "No, you're not. And you shouldn't be. We were horrible to you. Grandfather left you something real, didn't he?" "Yes, good, you deserve it. You were the only one who actually loved him instead of his money." The next day, I made Preston an offer to manage the U.S. distribution for Eredita wines. Salary, not ownership. He accepted immediately. Mallory took longer to swallow her pride, but eventually she came around too. She was actually good at marketing when she was selling something real instead of just herself. She moved to Rome, learning the business from the ground up. Vernon and Beatrice moved to a small apartment in New Jersey. Vernon found work as a bookkeeper. Beatrice got a job at Nordstrom. They didn't speak to me, But Preston said they were actually happier, forced to rely on each other instead of money. My mother moved into the guest house on the California property I bought with my first distribution payment. She retired from nursing and spent her days painting, something she'd always wanted to do but never had time for. And me? I still teach but only part-time now. Summers, I spent in Italy, learning the wine business, getting to know the family I never knew existed. My students think it's hilarious that their history teacher owns a vineyard. I use it to teach them about international trade, agriculture, and family businesses. Last week, I was in the villa playing chess with Uncle Augusto, when he said something that stopped me cold. You know, your grandfather always said the winner isn't who takes the most pieces. But who knows which pieces really matter? I looked at the board, then at the vineyards through the window, then at the photo of grandfather on the wall, young and hopeful in 1947. He won, I said. It just took 60 years for the game to end. Augustus smiled. No, Nathan, you won. You just didn't know you were playing. But the story wasn't over yet. That crumpled envelope they all laughed at. It wasn't just a plane ticket. It was an invitation to discover who I really was, where I really came from, and what really mattered. My grandfather gave my cousins what they thought they wanted, and gave me what I didn't know I needed. The last bottle of wine grandfather personally produced sits in my apartment in Detroit, unopened. The label says Eredità 24, and underneath, in his handwriting, for Nathan, who understood that the best inheritance isn't what you're given, but what you're trusted to continue. Every Sunday, I still play chess. Sometimes with Augusto in Italy, sometimes with my students in Detroit, sometimes alone, thinking about the old man who orchestrated the longest game I've ever seen. He taught me that real wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in truth, family, and the courage to trust when nothing makes sense. Turns out the board everyone else was watching was just a distraction. The real game was happening on a completely different board, in a different country, in a different language. And grandfather made sure I was the only one who got an invitation to play. Tell me, do you think this revenge was fair, or did they deserve even worse? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more emotional storytelling, family drama, and the most satisfying revenge stories on YouTube.